Garbagemen of Reddit, what's the most memorable thing you've found in the trash? My cousin works for waste management and he found a freaking bouncy castle. Just needed a few patches and we got that sucker going every holiday. My dad found a live rooster in a trash can once while working. The weirdest part about it is that there was other trash on top of it. Either that rooster was dumb and unlucky or someone was trying to get rid of it. I can see the chicken from Moana doing something like this. I used to work in a very high-class neighborhood. I've found plenty of valuable items like MacBooks, $2 camera lens, hoverboards, etc. The most memorable is probably the life-size black male blow-up doll. How dare you accuse me of racism? Some of my best friends are black. Hold on a minute. Fwoof woof woof woof. A corpse that turned out to be a Halloween prop. It scared the crap out of me. The reverse Elmer McCurdy. My dad was doing some work at a mall and noticed employees carrying box after box of stuff out to the dumpster. Apparently a Hallmark store was closing or moving or something and they were just unloading the stock. He filled his truck up with as much of it as he could and brought it home. What followed was one of the best nights of my young life. I got a ton of cool toys and stationery, but the jackpot was like dozens of these funny battery operated fluffy dogs, and these hilarious flying pigs. You could hook them to the ceiling and turn them on and they'd fly in a circle. We had them all going at once and it was absolutely hysterical. My parents gave them away as gag gifts for years afterward. I was about to drop off our weekend trash at my in-laws' mountain cabin. The community shares a central garbage center and you have to stop there on your way out as there is no collection service. Anyway, this guy is about to throw a 55 inches brand new flat screen into the compactor. I stop him and say, "Hey man, what's wrong with it?" He says, "Won't turn on. You want it?" I say, "Sure." Take it home, unscrew the bezel. Power cord running to the backside of the power button on the bottom of the unit is not plugged in. I plug it in, TV powers immediately. It's in my basement now. Play Breath of the Wild in glorious 55 inches dumpster TV glory. It's lightweight so I also carry it outside for football in the fall. I feel like a 55 inches TV would make a terrible football, but you do you man. I was working at the landfill as a student job many years ago. During the coffee break, one of the guys who were on the vac truck sucking up blowing plastic had saved a blow-up doll. The rest of the crew was giving him a heck of a time about it for the entire coffee break until he stormed out. When I came back at lunchtime, it turned out he had gone to the shop and grabbed one of the industrial weed whackers, metal blades, and had charged the managers in the office. They were able to block the door until the cops came and took him down. He didn't get to keep the blow-up doll. Of people you can't mess around with, a dude willing to take a, probably, used blow-up doll home is not the kinda guy you wanna frick with. A deer's ribcage is probably the most memorable. It was during the hunting season so not abnormal really. Not a garbage man, but I delivered furniture. Summer of '07. During the height of everybody gets a mortgage. You get a mortgage. You get a mortgage. In the winter, I had delivered a king-size Tempur-Pedic to these people for the guest room. Well, in the summer, I delivered a crib. The in-laws had slept on the bed once. They were just going to throw the mattress and box spring out. King-size Tempur-Pedic with a frame and a box spring for free, and since it weighs 700 pounds, you'll tip me for taking it out. Sold. I had that mattress for like 8 years. It was so comfortable. Obligatory I am not a garbage man but knew one. He worked the super rich suburbs of Chicago in the 80s/90s before Craigslist was a thing, and rich people couldn't be bothered to sell their own used goods so just dumped them. Anyway, these people would call him to come pick up their $1,000 value of furniture they no longer wanted. TVs, computers, you name it. They'd get a new something, not know what to do with the old one, and dump it. The best story was the car though. He was doing his route, and someone wanted him to get rid of a car. Not a junker, a fully running, maybe 6-year-old car that someone in the burbs would buy. Couldn't be bothered to sell it, just wanted it disposed of, so treated it like a bag of garbage from the kitchen. He got the title and that was his car for years. This one is my favorite. One man's trash is literally treasure. PS3, their kid must have dummied the cat jack, because the pins were bent, otherwise perfectly fine. Once I picked up a controller My friend works at the recycling and garbage center. He swears they aren't allowed to pull things out of the bins for insurance purposes. I always ask him about it when I am sitting on his 100% mismatched patio furniture that seems to get incrementally nicer every week throughout every summer. Not a garbage man. My little brother would go shopping in the dumpster bins at a USDA research center in our hometown. He found thousands of dollars worth of slightly used lab equipment and oscilloscopes. He went on to apply to the university that sponsored most of the lab research there using an essay about the things he built with the lab equipment pilfered from the trash bins. Some mad lad crap. It's crazy how much money gets spent at big labs on equipment compliance. My high school got lots of really great equipment from a nearby lab because after 10 or so years it was cheaper to buy new, factory certified equipment than pay to have someone recertify the old stuff every year. Found in my own garbage can. I was at a friend's and I had sold him my snowboard. We drive to my house at the same moment my mom is taking out garbage. Out of the garbage I see my old snowboard, the one I just sold for a $100. It was a K2. This was around 1999 to 2000. So a pretty good snowboard, even thought it was a few years old. I get out of my friend's car and I'm like, WTF mom, you are throwing away a perfectly good snowboard. Her reply, since you got a new one I didn't think you still needed your old one. She then made me give the old one to my friend for free since she had bought both. Both were Christmas presents. She is notorious for throwing away perfectly good stuff. Hates any clutter. She also burned my entire college art portfolio BC. I had been keeping it for too long in her crawl space. Not a garbage man, just a dumpster diver. When PS4s were new and red line of D-thing people, I would dumpster dive and pick up tons of PS4s. I could get the hard drives for cheap at Microcenter, thank you Texas, and would load them with the PS4 OS. After 6 months I had made probably $4,000 off of reselling these on Craigslist. Also found plenty of the used up PCs that I would reimage. I once found a PC with a top of the line CPU and video card in it. The area I live in is pretty affluent area and they throw out perfectly workable crap all the time. Not a garbage collector, but when I was a kid they found a, still alive, baby in the dumpster behind the local Murrin Not me but my dad. When I was growing up we had my dad's video game systems, Atari 2600 and NES, to play with. One day in the late 90s my dad brings home a perfectly working Nintendo 64. The two games he found with it, Ocarina of Time and GoldenEye 007. Did not realize how significant those games were till much later, but dang did they make me a gamer for life. I'm guessing someone's parents got mad that the kids wouldn't stop playing fighting over it, or maybe their grades were sinking. You truly lucked out with those games too. GoldenEye 007 is one of my favorite multiplayers of all time. Ran a small town dump for a couple of years. Always fantasized about finding a suitcase full of cash. One day I see a medium-sized, hard-sided suitcase, upside down on the compaction pile. Walk up, pop the clasps. The top drops like a rock and a cascade of brilliant silver rains to the ground and, holy crap, is this from somebody's backroom abortion clinic? There, all a jumble, was a cornucopia of medical gear, scalpels, bone saws, glass hypodermics, needles and stuff that looked like it belonged into a cremator's torture chamber. Turned out to be from the estate of the town's first osteopath. When it was sorted, the then current osteopath sent the stuff to the first osteopathic school in the US, in Kirksville, Missouri. Never did find the case of dough, though I did score an antique barber's chair and on a couple of occasions, subbing on the trucks, was totally amazed by the PR0N. It was the 80s, so all dead tree variety, that notable members of the community were fond of. Not me, but my uncle found a puppy in the trash that he took with him and for cheeseburgers for lunch that day. He kept that dog for 16 years. Rascal was a good boy. I work at a landfill, so I hear all the gossip. Someone wealthy had a party and threw away unopened bottles of expensive alcohol. A jewelry store called one time saying someone threw away a piece of nice jewelry on accident. People accident throw away family heirlooms all the time. Oh boy, strap in. So the year is 1999. Star Wars 1 just came out and it was everywhere. As a garbage man in San Francisco in particular, I noticed a plethora of Star Wars themed trash. Nothing out of the ordinary. Lots of toy boxes, plates and hats from kids' birthdays, that kind of stuff. Well, one day we're on the routine early morning pickup and we come across what looks like a body wrapped in black trash bags and duct tape next to the dumpster of a local nightclub. Me and this other guy pick it up together kind of cautiously and realize it's way too light to be an actual body and think it must be a mannequin or something. We unwrap it right there and realize, holy crap, it's a life-size Darth Maul mannequin. Score. However, I look at my buddy and he has a horrified look on his face and just stares at Maul's Sith regions. There is a massive purple dong glued to the front, and looks like they had drilled out a hole in his dark side buns to do their own trench run. And let's just say some proton torpedoes had definitely been fired in it. I gagged a bit and grabbed him by the boots and tossed him into the compactor. That was one I'll never forget. The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some may consider to be unnatural. Spider-Man suit. I guess that person had had enough of the Spider-Verse. I do commercial trash, so all my scores come from stores, some apartment buildings, candy, piles and endless piles of candy. After holidays is the moth load. 1 year after Easter I brought home cases of Reese's eggs. Also on the food front, you find a lot of chips, cookies, beef jerky, etc. Sometimes I don't bring lunch. Makeup, from high-end Ulta to an entire bag filled with Wet n Wild products. My wife loves those scores. Recently, I scored 9 boxes of Franzia box wine, unopened appliances, electronics, clothing. Also recently, I brought home a huge pile of free meal tickets to a local chain restaurant. A lot of it is sold, a lot of it is kept, even more is given away. It's a great job, pays well, is different every day, no boss breathing down my neck. But, I get up at 2 AM every day. Not a garbage man, but my dad was before I was born. He's found old fishing lures, a Bulova watch, but most importantly, my dad was the driver who had this one girl's garbage route, and every time the girl would hear the truck she'd get all the last minute garbage from the house and take it out so she could get a good look at all the garbage men. And she was interested in my dad. She even scheduled her radiography classes around trash collection day, just so she'd be home. When my dad noticed the trend, he'd often switch roles with one of the guys on the back of the truck so he could take the girl's last minute garbage from her and toss it in. This went on for months. One day, the girl's father locked her out of the house and said he wouldn't let her back in until she gave her phone number to one of the garbage men. Coincidentally, this was one day my dad was driving. She took the trash up to the guy on the back and she asked him, "Hey, is your driver seeing anyone?" The guy yelled to my dad, "Hey Keith, are you seeing anyone?" And this is how my dad found his most valuable treasure, my mom, in the garbage. They've been happily married for almost 26 years. The greatest trash of all, love. My dad was a garbage man and found a really nice recurve bow and some other hunting gear. I used that bow to hunt for years until one day the glue gave out and it fell apart. Never killed anything with it. Mayor, you just took that bow on a lot of hiking trips. I was hoping someone someday would ask this. Worked on residential routes back in 80s. Well, here goes: intact booze bottles, contents of medicine cabinets, lingerie, herb, couple of bags, jewelry. Somebody tossed out somebody's possessions. Scrapped what I found that day, about $450. Lots of little finds. Strangely, a lot of piggy banks, few hundred over 4 years. Girls' jewelry boxes in springtime, don't know why. Polaroids of all sorts. Me and partner found what looked like hairdryer vac combo. Buddy put dryer helmet looking thing on his head. Saw box, it came in breast enlarger. After hurricane, lots of memorable cans with rotting meat and maggots. Military smoke grenades. Bayonets, dart uniforms. $40 and big gold leaf earrings on top of grass clippings in metal garbage can. Ninja weapons. Lastly, a live puppy. Swunken up to dump it and something bounced around and as it emptied. Thought it was bowling ball. Looked like faux fur falling out. Then I heard little yip and there he was, 2 different eye colors. Dusty and skinny and stinky. My buddy kept him. So much more I can't remember it all. Puppy was best. Each of these things at one point or another was most memorable and at times very fortunate timing. Example, my back or arms were hurting, keep an ear eye open for prescription bottles in small bathroom waster bags, pills make very distinctive sound rattling around. Broke after heavy weekend, listen for change. We got real good at it. Hangover, listen for bottles and cans. Some stops were known party houses, toss out full and opened beer and booze. What kind of freaking monster throws a puppy in the trash? I'm not a garbage man, but when I was a kid in the 80s I volunteered at the local recycling center. Things were so loose then they let my 16-year-old brother drive the truck, with no CDL. At one point my brother smashed up the hood and window of the car behind him trying to get moving uphill with a manual transmission. We only knew something had happened because I heard a weird noise and screaming, and we would go around and pick up the recyclables and bring them in. Our parents praised us for our sense of environmental responsibility, but really this just let us amass the most enormous collection of 70s P you could possibly imagine. We had multiple copies of every issue of Playboy, Penthouse, Hustler, etc. and raunchier stuff. Basically a closet filled with it. Our dad even caught us once and we had to throw it all out, probably making the Garbagemen happy, but we had rebuilt the collection in a few weeks. My dad was a plumber and always wanted to get a diamond ring for my mother. One day, while replacing an old toilet in some apartment building, he found a small ring blacked by old age and probably other filth. He tried to clean it with some water and noticed that it started to shine. He went to a jeweler and put it into a solution, revealing a 24K white gold diamond ring in it. He gave it to my mother on Valentine's Day. Plumber here. When renovating buildings, guys will actually argue about who gets to open the house trap since they tend to collect valuables that have made it past the fixture traps. Not a garbage man. I was delivering pizza. I saw a bunch of junk in someone's garbage, like they had cleaned out a former tenant. There was a small, steel gun cabinet that would hold maybe several rifles. I am a gun owner and all of my long guns didn't fit in my safe, and I was in the market for a small gun cabinet like this. It was in good condition and had the keys in the lock. I opened it up and unfortunately there wasn't any guns in there, but instead there was a sword in a scabbard and a bayonet. Both old but in fairly decent condition. A little online research told me the sword was a World War II Japanese Nko sword and an Arisaka bayonet. They are worth around several $100s for both, although I don't plan on selling them. I'm not a garbage man, but I work for my city and perform the move and outs in regards to the water and electric utilities, so I often run across houses that have very recently been vacated. I've found $50 bills twice, separate occasions, a $100 bill once, compound bow, Craftsman handheld toolbox full of tools, a shop vac, bucket of drywall screws, a nice bowling ball, several cell phones with micro SD cards. Recently found a shattered phone with a 128GB micro SD card still in it. Baseball bag with fairly nice softball bat in it. Probably beat thing I found was a 43 inches Vizio smart TV with the cable cut in half. Seriously, $5 on Amazon for a new cable and the TV works fine. They even threw out the remote with the cigarette burn on it beside it. I used to work as a part-time garbage man. Back then I owned a white pair of Adidas Superstars shoes. They were very dear to me. I must have had them for 3 years on regular use, with me on my travels and other adventures. On the same week I declared my beloved shoes to be finally unusable. I found an Adidas box in a bin on my work route. The box contained the same model, same size Superstars that I had just tossed, but in black color. Seemingly, the shoes were unused and in perfect condition. I was happy to enjoy life another 3 years with my favorite shoes. You've been visited by Professor Papa. You'll ace all your classes this year only if you comment study hard Papa. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check out another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day, you magnificent people.